Hi everybody and welcome back to my modeling channel. Today we're gonna start review the kit of an Ilyushin 62M from Zvezda, scale 144. So let's open the box and see what we have inside. So we're gonna start initially with the instruction sheet. So you have a couple of options. Of course you have a kit description, and then it's a pretty straightforward building sheets, as you can see, and you have a few different options that we're gonna have later on, but one option decal for the IL flood scheme, but you could do it in the earlier Soviet version or the later on with the Russian flag. Beside that kit seems to be quite interesting because we have options to design the flaps extended or not, like on the Airbus, and to have also the struts could be airborne or on the ground. So you have quite a few different options, and it's pretty straightforward and very interesting. So now let's continue on with the kit. So we always have on the Zvezda kit the option of having a stand for the model, and now we're moving on to the screw with the clear part. So we have the cockpit window, and I think this time I might try it, depending on how the result will be, to mask the cockpit window and to do with a clear way. And of course I'll have all the windows and landing lights options. So that's pretty straightforward. Now let's move on to the screws and see what we have. So the first screw, we have a half of the fuselage, and we don't have the detail of the tail at the moment, but I think that would be a possibility to do. You have the first door, which is also could be the option of making it open or closed. All the panel lines are finely detailed and engraved into the plastic, so this is going to be a very nice kit. Now we have another sprue with a couple of seats, most probably for the cockpit, details of the undercarriage, and I see a fan disc, and on the back also a turbine for both engines. So I think we're gonna have two sprues. Yes, actually, yes, we do have two sprues who are identical and pretty well detailed as well. Now move those things on the way, out of the way. So here we have the options of having basically, those are some flaps, and here we have some we have the tail, the horizontal tail as well, and we have some cones, and we'll have some options. Here we have a part of the cockpit as well, and the front nose gear, which seems to be very fine, and everything has been very well detailed, I have to say. We also have the cockpit door, and some other little details. So here we have the main landing gear strut, and with or without the extension on the oleo, we can see it here. We have the engine, basically the anti-ice and the entry for the engines. I think that's the vertical fin or the tail. And so are some other flaps and ailerons, and of course the engine nacelle seems to be there. We also have the air intake, who will be detailed as well on that kit. And now we are moving on to the wings. So wings are in two parts, upper and lower part. In a sandwich, panel lines are very finely engraved, and yes, we do have the options of putting the flaps, the flaps out, and also we have the possibility to move the aileron, and there will be the air intake here, who can be as well detailed. So it seems to be a very decent kit. So enough of talking, and let's start building. So we are now going to start our build. by preparing the wings. So initially you have to build up the main landing gear wheel well, and for this it's in a few parts, as you can see, and you have to put the actuator. So I haven't done any painting on that part, and after finishing that part I had to put some air intake as well, and then glue the wings all together as a sandwich. So after this it was requiring a little bit of adjustment, as I think it was a little bit damaged during the transport. So after that we're gonna do the horizontal stabilizer, some kit and part preparation, and then we're gonna glue them all together. So all went actually extremely smoothly, and I have nothing to complain about. Now we're gonna start. One of the highlights is going to prepare the cockpit of that Ilyushin 62. So initially I will fit all the walls together and the instrument panel as well, and then I will let it dry, and while this is drying I will prepare my engines. So for the engines were in pretty easy conditions. I had to prepare the fan, and then the turbine, and then you glue this all together on the engines, and then after that you will add the leading edge and basically the anti-ice for those engines. So we can now start filling the gaps on the horizontal stabilizer with the putty. So while this will be done, and while it will be drying, we're gonna continue on the engines as well. And there was not much to do, I have to say, just a few gaps here and there, especially on the wings. The wings require a little bit more of a work, as I had some issue as they were damaged during the transport. So while this is drying, we're gonna start painting our cockpit. So for this I use a mix of Tamiya white paint and very light grey, and then mix them together. Proportion is about I would say about 60% white, 40% in this grey. Then I had to paint the walls, and I mean the instrument sheets as well, the instrument panels, with this blue-green Russian or Soviet aircraft. So I made that mixed as well by myself, and then we add that on those instruments panel. Then I had to paint the yoke as well, and for this I used some other light gray color. Then what we did, I used some matte black, and basically I was trying to design all the instruments panel, as they were not, there was no decal sheet at all. But anyway, we are not going to see much of this from those open window, but still I try to do some things just in case we could see anything. So the end result was quite nice, I have to say. So when I finish this, I add as well the sun visor, painted it in black again, and then we are going to prepare and put our seats. So for these I use a regular brown, light brown color for those cockpit seats. I had about 4 or 5 of them, and then we're gonna put them as well and glue them all together. So as you can see, it is very, very basic, but I have to say that at the end the result was pretty nice. I was quite happy, but you will see that toward the end of the build. So finishing this, we're gonna close. I decided to close the main passenger door. I had to do as well a little bit of adjustment for filling, and then we continue on, glue the cockpit inside the cockpit, and then I had to put another wheel well for the aft wheels. Those are mounted on a big pistons, and once the aircraft arrived at the stands, basically I saw those huge wheels going down, and then the plane doesn't rest on its tail. Basically that's the only way why this is existing. So after that, of course, I had to add a little bit of weight. I don't know if you saw that, just behind the cockpit. And then, of course, we glue the cockpit all together and the fuselage all together. I had to do a little bit of adjustment again, and then we're gonna put the cockpit window, and then we're gonna let it dry. Of course, when this will be dried, we're gonna add and fill all the gaps with some Tamiya putty. And this time I used the gray putty, and I have to say that it's working very nice. And after that, I had some gaps between the clear parts and the front of the aircraft, so I add a little bit of glue, and then later on I'll have to add some more putty to fill the gaps. While this is drying, now it's time to do some sanding, as we usually do in our models, and that's take a lot of the building part. And honestly, this is not my favorite one, but I normally listen some music, as some of my viewers ask me. Yes, I'm watching some podcast or listening some music most of the time, as this is really time consuming. So we're gonna finish this up and finish up the horizontal stabilizer and the engines now. So now that our fuselage and all the parts have been ready and sanded down, it's time to add the wings to the fuselage and do the final assembly of that nice airliner. Then I use some very thin tapes, about 1 millimeter wide, adhesive tape, and then, as you can see, one by one I put them and I cover those cockpit window and windshield. I have to say that it was quite time consuming. If I have to add the result, the end result was okay. It's still very nice. It's still a little bit better than having those decals, but it took a lot of time. I must have spent at least about an hour. So now we are going to paint, of course, and go to the final paint of the aircraft. So for these I use a mix of gray and white, as I normally do. And as the regular Tamiya gray is always a little bit too dark for me, so I paint initially the wings and the underbelly, and then later on I had to do some more correction, as this was not exactly what I wanted to do. So in between I will start to build the flaps, which were quite easy to build. I had to put the actuator, basically 2 actuators per flaps, let them dry, and of course after we're gonna go to the paint booth as well. So that's not gonna require a lot of work. Then after this we're gonna go back to the paint booth and keep painting basically the rest. Basically the engine will be painted in gray, in this light gray color, and of course I'll have to add the aileron before painting. So after using the gray, we're gonna paint now the undercarriage, I mean the main landing gear and the nose landing gear. And after that I'll have to use a dark matte black to paint all the wheels and the tires on that aircraft. So shortly after that I will let my fuselage dry, and then I will have to put some mask all over the fuselage to be able to paint the leading edge of the wings and the horizontal stabilizer. So after the paint was completed and all dried out, now it's going to be to see the final result of that paint. Especially I was quite anxious to see what would be the result of the cockpit windows if everything went well. Unfortunately, when I opened the cockpit window, some part of the paint went and removed some extra paint, so I had to do some touch-up on the main windscreen. But everything went well at the end. You will see on the end result of the pictures. I did small corrections, and then it's going to be time for preparing the undercarriage. So for that, of course, I had to use some more paint, and I painted basically the wheels just around the tires. Now we're gonna finish to put our undercarriage and all the gear doors as well on the nose gear. And of course, once everything is finished, I will let it rest overnight, of course, and the following day I will continue on decaling the aircraft. So for these, I used some Ascensio decal, and I have to say that I was very well surprised because I had quite a few bad reports on various forums. And I have to say that for myself and my own experience, I had absolutely no issue at all with those decals. I could only say that the cockpit window was maybe 2 mm short. I mean the blue decal was 2 mm short of the windscreen. That's the only dark point, and there was very little gap sometimes with the passenger windows. But otherwise, I have to say that the decals were thin enough, they were working very well and adhering very well to the plastic. So I really had absolutely no issue whatsoever to decal that aircraft. So the result was very satisfying for myself. So for the wings, I mainly used the Zvezda decal that were provided with the kit, and I have to say that the wings had a lot of little panels and a lot of decals on those wings. But honestly, as usual, Zvezda does a very good job, and the decals were in very good quality. So I could really do all those little details very easily, and I was very happy because there was a really enjoyable kit to build and to decal and to detail as well. So some of those decals require a little bit more attention, but beside that, it's a very easy work to do. So now one of the fun part I had was to detailing basically the flaps who were deployed on that aircraft. So I start to do a little bit of weathering, and for this I used some Tamiya panel line initially that I put on some corners and on the wheels, and then I use my own mix when I do some weathering like I'm doing right now to reveal all the panel lines. I use a black pastel, and I grind it very thinly, and I mix it with water and 1 drop of liquid soap. And after that I can put it all over the fuselage and everywhere, and then I let it dry. And as you will see, I will use just a cloth, a humid cloth, to remove, or a humid tissue, cotton tissue, and then I will remove all the extra wash. And I'm quite happy about all those results. Doesn't require much of experience, and at least if you have too much wash, well, you get something a little bit more wet, and then you can remove everything at the end. So the end result is very easy and very forgiving as well, I have to say. So for some people who don't have too much experience weathering the aircraft or a model, I would recommend that solution because it's really, really, really forgiving. So it takes a lot of time, but it was honestly very enjoyable to start to see that Ilyushin 62 looking more and more like an old Russian aircraft who's been beat up by weather. So I really enjoy doing that. So when I finished the weathering, well, it was time to put on the flaps in the deployed position. And after that was dried, I had to add the external one as well. And of course I let it dry overnight. Then the following day was time to do a little bit more of weathering, this time under the wings. I also did the extra paint on those decals, as I was mentioning earlier, the 2 millimeters who were missing. And after that, of course, we'll do a little bit more weathering on the fuselage itself. So for this I use my makeup from Tamiya, and I use some dark colors and to make the rain marks all over the fuselage. So this is the end result of our model. It's an Ilyushin 62. As you can see, the box is behind. I was using those Ascensio decal, were very nice. And I have to say that I really enjoy building that kit. There was, like Zvezda do most of the time, an excellent kit, nothing to complain about the kits. Very happy about the decals, and I hope you enjoyed that build with me. If you did so, please give me a thumbs up. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't done it. And I will see you soon for another review and another build video. Thank you for watching.